The Interstellar Combat Institute sat on a small moon at the edge of the Chorus system. It was not a beautiful place. The sky was always gray and the wind was always cold. But students came here from every corner of the galaxy. They came to learn how to fight, how to survive, and how to protect their people. Professor had taught at this academy for 47 cycles. His species, they were known for their careful nature. They did everything slowly and with great thought, had 4 eyes, 6 arms, and skin that looked like dark blue stone. When he walked, his feet made heavy sounds on the metal floor. When he spoke, his voice was deep and slow, like water moving through rocks. Today was a special day. The academy had received its first human students, only 2 of them, a young man named and a young woman named. They had arrived 3 days ago on a small ship from a planet called Earth, had never met humans before. He had only read about them in reports. The reports said humans were strange. They came from a dangerous world full of predators and poison and extreme weather. They had survived by being clever and stubborn. But the reports also said they were fragile. They had no natural armor, no claws, no venom, just soft skin and small teeth. Looked at the 2 humans sitting in the back of his classroom, was tall with short black hair. He sat with his arms crossed and a curious look on his face, was shorter with long dark hair tied behind her head. She was writing something in a small notebook. The rest of the class had 42 students from 12 different species. They were with their thick shells, with their 4 legs and sharp tails, with their floating bodies and glowing eyes. All of them were looking at with respect and attention. Walked to the front of the room. On the table before him sat a standard plasma rifle. It was a beautiful weapon, silver and black with blue lights along the side. Every soldier in the galaxy used some version of this weapon. Today, said slowly, we will learn proper handling techniques for the Type 7 plasma rifle. He picked up the weapon carefully, very carefully. He wrapped 2 of his arms around the main body. He used 2 more arms to hold the barrel steady. His last 2 arms pressed the stock against his chest for support. His whole body was involved in holding this one weapon. This, he said, is the correct way to hold a plasma rifle. Notice how I use all 6 appendages. Notice how the weapon is pressed firmly against my thorax. This gives maximum stability. This prevents the weapon from moving when fired. The students nodded. They had seen this technique before. It was standard. It was written in every combat manual in the galaxy. Continued his lecture. The Type 7 has a strong recoil. If you do not hold it correctly, the weapon will jump. Your shot will miss. In battle, a missed shot can mean death. He demonstrated by pretending to fire. His whole body tensed. All 6 arms locked into position. It looked impressive. It looked powerful. You must practice this hold for at least 200 hours before you can fire accurately, said. Most students need 300 hours. Some need 500. There is no shortcut, only practice. A student raised one of his clawed hands. Professor, what about species with fewer arms? How do they adapt? Nodded. This was a good question. Species with fewer limbs must use support equipment, straps, stands, mechanical assists, though for example use gravity manipulation to hold their weapons steady. The students glowed a little brighter. They were proud of their technique. Without proper support, continued, a species with only 4 arms would struggle greatly. A species with only 2 arms would find it nearly impossible to achieve accuracy. In the back of the room, leaned forward. His eyebrows went up, stopped writing and looked at him. She knew that look. It was the look he got when he was about to say something. Did not notice. He was busy adjusting his grip on the rifle. The key is distribution of force, he said. Each arm serves a purpose. 2 arms absorb recoil. 2 arms maintain direction. 2 arms handle the trigger and power settings. This system has been used for 3,000 cycles. It is perfect. Perfect, whispered to himself. He looked at the rifle. He looked at the professor's 6 arms. He looked at his own 2 hands. Leaned toward him. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't what?" "Don't do the thing you're about to do." Smiled. "I'm just going to ask a question." "That's what I'm afraid of." At the front of the room was still demonstrating. He moved the rifle left and right, showing how stable it was in his grip. "See how the weapon does not shake. This is the result of proper technique. This is what we will spend the next 6 months learning." 6 months, thought about that. 6 months to learn how to hold a gun. On Earth, children learn to hold rifles in an afternoon. Soldiers trained for a few weeks. 6 months seemed like a very long time. He raised his hand. His 4 eyes turned toward him. The professor blinked slowly. "Yes, the human has a question." "Yes, Professor," stood up. He was taller than most of the students in the room. "I was just wondering about something." "Go ahead." Pointed at the rifle. "Why are you holding it like that?" The room went silent, completely silent. Even the air seemed to stop moving. Every student turned to look at. Some looked shocked. Some looked confused. The student made a clicking sound with his shell. The students flickered with nervous light. Stared at the human. His 4 eyes blinked one at a time from left to right. "I do not understand your question." The rifle said, "You're using all 6 arms to hold it, but it doesn't look that heavy. And the grip is designed for 2 hands, right? So why use 6 arms?" Looked down at the weapon. He looked at his 6 arms. He looked back at the human. "This is the proper technique. This is how weapons are held." Says who? The manual, the combat guides, 3,000 cycles of military history. Nodded slowly. "Okay, but has anyone ever tried using just 2 hands?" Put her face in her palms. "Here we go," she thought. Professor made a sound deep in his throat. It was not quite a laugh. It was more like disbelief trying to become words. 2 hands, just 2, that would be impossible. The recoil alone would break your bones. "Would it though?" asked. The professor's mandibles clicked together. "Young human, I have taught weapons handling for 47 cycles. I have trained 10,000 soldiers. I think I know how to hold a rifle." Smiled politely. "I'm sure you do, Professor. I'm just curious. Have you ever actually seen someone try it with 2 hands?" The silence in the room grew heavier. No one had ever questioned Professor before. No one had ever questioned the manual. The manual was perfect. Everyone knew that. But now a strange creature from a distant planet was standing in the back of the room, asking questions that no one had ever thought to ask. Set the rifle down on the table, his 6 arms folded across his chest. "No," he admitted, "I have not, because it is not possible." Smile grew wider. "May I try?" The room held its breath. Professor stared at the human for a long moment. His 4 eyes moved slowly, studying this strange creature. Stood there with a calm smile on his face. He did not look nervous. He did not look afraid. He looked like someone who had asked a simple question and was waiting for a simple answer. The other students whispered among themselves. The made clicking sounds with their shells. The swished their tails back and forth. The flickered between colors of confusion and curiosity. "You want to try," repeated the word slowly. "You want to hold a plasma rifle with only 2 hands." "Yes, Professor." "Do you understand what you are asking? This weapon has a recoil force of 300 kelvins. The standard safety protocol requires a minimum of 4 stabilizing points. You have only 2 arms, 2 small, soft arms." Looked at his arms. He turned them over, looking at his hands. "They're not that small." A student let out a harsh laugh. His name was, and he was one of the largest students in the class. His shell was thick and brown, and his claws were bigger than his head. "The human thinks he can do what no one else can do. This should be amusing." "I didn't say I was special," replied. "I just asked a question." Stood up from her seat. She walked to his side. "What he means," she said carefully, "is that humans have a different relationship with handheld tools. We might approach this differently. Mandibles clicked. Different how? Thought for a moment. How could she explain millions of years of evolution? How could she tell them about spears and bows and axes? About the first humans who picked up rocks and turned them into weapons? About hands that could grip and twist and throw with perfect control? On our planet, she said, we had no natural weapons. No claws, no fangs, no shells. We survived by using tools. Our hands evolved to hold things, to grip them tightly, to control them with great precision. All species use tools, said. This is not special. Yes, but for us, tools became part of our bodies. We don't just hold weapons, we become one with them. A rifle in human hands is not a separate thing. It is an extension of the human. The room was quiet. No one quite understood what she meant. Laughed again. Pretty words, but words do not change physics. The recoil will break his arms. Stepped forward. He walked down the center of the classroom toward the professor's table. His footsteps were light and confident. Every eye in the room followed him. May I? He asked, gesturing toward the rifle. Hesitated. He looked at the weapon. He looked at the human. Part of him wanted to say no. This was against protocol. This was against everything he knew, but another part of him was curious. He had lived for many cycles. He had seen many things, but he had never seen a human hold a weapon. If you damage the rifle, said slowly, you will pay for repairs. Fair enough. And if you injure yourself, the Academy is not responsible. I understand. Step back, he spread his 6 arms wide. Then please, human, show us your technique. Reached for the rifle, his fingers wrapped around the grip, just 2 hands, 5 fingers on each, nothing more. The class leaned forward, the stretched their long necks, the floated closer, even stopped laughing and watched with narrow eyes. Lifted the rifle. It was heavy but not impossible. He had lifted heavier things on Earth. He had carried equipment through mountains and across rivers. This was nothing. He examined the weapon carefully. His eyes moved over every part. The barrel, the stock, the trigger, the power cell. He saw how it was designed. He understood its shape. Whoever made this rifle had built it for hands, not for claws or tentacles. The grip was curved. The trigger was small. The stock had a flat end made for pressing against a shoulder. Interesting, he said quietly. What is interesting? Asked. This rifle, it's designed for 2-handed use. Blinked, what do you mean? Pointed at different parts of the weapon. Look at the grip, it's sized for 1 hand. And here this second grip near the front, it's for the other hand. The stock is shaped to press against a shoulder, a single shoulder, not a chest, not multiple limbs, 1 shoulder. The professor looked at the rifle. He had held this weapon 1,000 times. He had never noticed these things. This is just the basic design, said. We adapted the holding technique to be more stable. But the design suggests something different. Raised the rifle. He pressed the stock against his right shoulder. His right hand held the grip, finger near the trigger. His left hand supported the barrel from below, like this. The class gasped. Some students made sounds of shock, others made sounds of fear. Claws scraped against his desk. That cannot be stable, a student said. You are barely touching it. It feels stable to me, said. He moved the rifle left, then right. He pointed it up, then down. His movements were smooth and quick. The weapon seemed to flow with his body, not against it. Watched with wide eyes. This was impossible. The human was holding a weapon that required 6 arms. He was holding it with 2, and he was moving it faster than any student had ever trained. This is a trick, said. The power cell is empty. There is no weight from the charge. Is it empty? Asked. He pressed a button on the side. A blue light glowed along the barrel. Looks charged to me. Then you are hiding your pain. Your arms must be shaking. Your muscles must be burning. Held the rifle with 1 hand, just 1. He let his left arm drop to his side. The weapon stayed steady. I feel fine, Professor. The room erupted into chaos. Students stood up. They shouted questions. They demanded explanations. The flickered so fast they looked like strobe lights, slammed his claws on his desk hard enough to crack the metal. "Silence!" shouted. His deep voice echoed off the walls. The students went quiet. "Sit down, all of you." They sat. Approached slowly. He walked around the human, studying him from every angle. He looked at the arms. He looked at the hands. He looked at the way the rifle sat against the shoulder. How is this possible? Shrugged, "This is normal for us. Every human learns to hold rifles like this. Some learn when they are children." Children? Yes, on Earth we have activities called sports. Some involve shooting targets. Children as young as 10 or 12 can participate. Felt dizzy. His understanding of the universe was shifting. For 3,000 cycles, the galaxy had believed that plasma rifles required 4 or more arms to handle. The combat manuals said so. The military academies taught so. Entire strategies had been built around this limitation. And now, a young human was standing in his classroom, holding a rifle with one hand, telling him that children on Earth did this for fun. "I need to sit down," said. He walked to his chair and lowered himself into it. His 6 arms hung limply at his sides. He felt old. He felt foolish. Stepped forward. "Professor, are you all right? I am reconsidering everything I thought I knew." Set the rifle back on the table. "I'm sorry if I caused trouble. I wasn't trying to show off. I was just curious about the technique." Looked up at the human. "Do all humans handle weapons this way?" "Most of us. We have different styles, but the basic idea is the same. 2 hands, shoulder support. It works for rifles, pistols, bows, crossbows, all kinds of things." Bows. A weapon that throws arrows. Very old. We've been using them for thousands of years. Thousands of years. Shook his head. Your species has been shooting weapons for thousands of years, and you only joined the galactic community recently. About 50 years ago, said. We're still new to all this. Made a strange sound. It was almost like a laugh, but sadder. New to all this. You walk into my classroom, overturn 3,000 cycles of weapons doctrine, and you say you are new to all this. Scratched the back of his head. Sorry. Stood up from his seat. His massive form cast a shadow across the room. I do not accept this. One demonstration proves nothing. Anyone can hold a rifle for a moment. The true test is firing. Let the human fire the weapon. Then we will see. The other students murmured agreement. Yes, let him fire. Let us see if he can actually hit anything. Looked at the rifle. He looked at. A part of him still believed this was impossible. A part of him hoped the human would fail. But another part of him, a small and curious part, wanted to see what would happen. Very well, said. Let us go to the firing range. The class stood up together. They moved as one toward the door, picked up the rifle again. He checked the safety. He checked the power level. Everything was ready. Walked beside him. You just had to ask, didn't you? I was curious. You're always curious. That's how we ended up on the wrong side of that asteroid field last month. That was different. Was it? Smiled. Okay, maybe not. But this time will be fine, I promise. Sighed. She had heard that promise before. It usually ended with explosions. They walked out of the classroom and into the gray light of the academy. The firing range was waiting. The whole galaxy was about to learn something new about humans. And nothing would ever be the same. The firing range was a long, dark room at the edge of the academy. The walls were made of thick metal that could absorb plasma blasts. The ceiling was high and covered with lights that glowed soft blue. At the far end, 50 meters away, stood a row of targets. They were simple circles, white with red centers. The students filed in and took positions behind the safety barrier. Professor stood near the control panel. His 4 eyes moved between the panel and the human who stood at the firing line. Held the rifle loosely at his side. He was looking at the targets. They seemed close to him. On Earth, he had practiced at distances much greater than this. 50 meters was nothing. "The rules are simple," said. "You will fire 5 shots. The weapon is set to training mode. The blasts will not damage the walls, but they will mark the targets. We will score your accuracy after you finish." "Understood," said. The standard passing score for first-year students is 2 hits out of 5. Most students achieve this after 100 hours of practice. Nodded. He had never held a plasma rifle before today. But a gun was a gun. The principles were the same: point, breathe, squeeze, follow through. Behind the barrier crossed his massive arms. This will be embarrassing for him. I almost feel sorry for the creature. Stood nearby, watching quietly. She did not feel sorry for, she felt sorry for the galaxy. They had no idea what was about to happen. Pressed a button on the control panel. A loud tone filled the room. "Begin when ready." Raised the rifle. He pressed the stock against his shoulder. His right hand found the grip. His left hand steadied the barrel. His feet spread slightly apart and his weight shifted forward. It was a stance humans had used for centuries. Hunters, soldiers, athletes, all of them had stood exactly like this. He looked down the barrel. The sights aligned with the center of the first target. He took a slow breath. Then he squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked. A bright blue blast shot through the air. It hit the target dead center. The room went silent. Adjusted his aim. Second target, squeeze, center hit. Third target, squeeze, center hit. Fourth target, squeeze, center hit. Fifth target, squeeze, center hit. 5 shots, 5 perfect hits, all of them in the red center of the targets. The whole thing took less than 10 seconds. Lowered the rifle. He looked at the targets, then he looked at Professor. Was that okay? Did not answer. He was staring at the targets. His mandibles hung open. His 4 eyes were wide. He looked like someone who had just seen a ghost. The students behind the barrier erupted into noise. Some shouted in their native languages. Some made sounds that had no translation. The flickered so brightly they lit up the entire room. A student fell off her seat in surprise. Was silent. His claws had stopped moving. He stared at the targets with an expression that might have been fear. "That's not possible," a student said. "No one hit center on their first attempt. No one." "He must have practiced before," another student said. "This is a trick." How could he practice? His species just joined the galaxy. The arguments grew louder. Students pushed against the barrier, trying to get closer looks at the targets. Had to shout to restore order. "Silence, everyone, silence." The noise died down slowly. Walked to the targets. He examined them one by one. Each hit was precisely in the center. The marks were so close together they almost formed a single point. This was not luck. This was skill. This was something had never seen in 47 cycles of teaching. He walked back to. His steps were slow and heavy. "How long have you been shooting?" asked. "Thought about it. Since I was about 12 years old, my father taught me." "And how old are you now?" 24. 12 years of practice. Well, not every day, maybe a few times each month. It was just a hobby. A hobby. Felt the word hit him like a physical blow. This human had achieved master-level accuracy as a hobby, something he did for fun when he had free time. "Is this normal for humans?" asked. "Can all of you shoot like this?" "Not all of us," admitted. "Some are better, some are worse. I'm pretty average, actually." "Average?" "Yeah, my sister is much better than me. She competed professionally for a while." Had to sit down again. He found a chair near the control panel and collapsed into it. His understanding of the universe was falling apart piece by piece. Stepped forward. She had watched the whole demonstration with a small smile on her face. "Professor, if you're interested, there's more we could show you." Looked up at her. "More is good with rifles, but I'm better with close-range weapons." "Close-range weapons?" Reached into her pocket. She pulled out a small folding knife. It was nothing special, just a simple tool she carried for everyday use, but in her hands it became something else. She flipped it open with one quick movement. The blade caught the light. Then she began to spin it. The knife danced between her fingers like a living thing. It moved from hand to hand, over and under, faster and faster. Her movements were so smooth that the blade seemed to blur. The students watched in stunned silence. Flipped the knife high into the air. It spun 3 times. She caught it without looking, her eyes still on the professor. "Humans have been using hand weapons for hundreds of thousands of years," she said. "Knives, spears, swords, axes. We're very good at things that involve our hands." Looked at the knife. It was such a simple thing, but the way she moved it suggested something deeper. Muscle memory built over generations. Skills passed from parent to child for thousands of cycles. "I have a knife collection back on Earth," continued. "Over 50 blades from different periods of our history, each one designed for human hands, each one meant to be an extension of the body." She closed the knife and put it back in her pocket. "Tools are part of us, Professor. We don't just use them, we become them." Stepped forward. His massive form moved past the other students. "I want to see more." More asked. "You say humans are good with hands. Prove it. Show us something else." Looked at, he shrugged. "It's up to you." She thought for a moment, then she smiled. "Do you have any rope?" A few minutes later stood at the center of the firing range. In front of her sat a pile of supplies: rope, wire, small metal pieces, things from around the academy. "Watch carefully," she said. "This will only take a moment." Her hands began to move. She picked up the rope and started tying knots. But these were not simple knots. They were complex patterns that looped and twisted through each other. Her fingers worked faster than any machine. In less than a minute, she had created a perfect net. She held it up for the class to see. "Humans invented this pattern about 8,000 years ago," she said. "Fishermen used it to catch food from the sea. We can still make it by hand." Then she picked up the wire, she bent it, she twisted it. She shaped it into a small figure of a bird with spread wings. Every detail was perfect. The feathers, the eyes, the curve of the beak. "This took me about 90 seconds," she said. "With practice, I could do it faster." The students did not speak. They could not speak. What they were seeing went beyond anything in their experience. This human female was manipulating materials with a speed and precision that no species in the galaxy could match. Watched his friend with pride. Had always been good with her hands. She could fix machines. She could build things from scratch. She could pick locks and tie knots and do 1,000 other things that required fine motor control. To her, it was all natural. She never thought about it. But to the aliens watching her, it looked like magic. Stood up from his chair. He walked to and looked at the net and the wire bird in her hands. "We have machines that can do these things," he said quietly. "But no species can do them by hand, not this fast, not this precisely." "Humans can," said simply. "Why, what makes you different?" Held up her hands, she spread her fingers wide. "These, evolution gave us these. On our planet, survival meant using tools. The better you were with your hands, the more likely you were to live. Over millions of years, we became very, very good." Stared at her hands, 10 fingers, flexible joints, sensitive skin, such simple things, yet they gave humans abilities that no other species possessed. "What else can you do?" he asked. Smiled. "How much time do you have?" The demonstration continued for the next 2 hours. Showed them how humans could throw objects with incredible accuracy. Showed them surgical techniques used by human doctors. They explained how human musicians could play instruments with dozens of strings. how human artists could paint details too small to see without magnification. By the end, Professor had filled 3 data pads with notes. His 4 eyes were tired. His mind was overwhelmed, but he understood something important now. Humans were not weak. They were not fragile. They were not limited by having only 2 arms. They were something else entirely. They were specialists, experts in the use of hands and tools, masters of fine motor control, and they had been perfecting these skills for longer than most galactic civilizations had existed. This changed everything. The next day, Professor called an emergency meeting. He sent messages to every department head at the academy. He contacted scientists at 3 different research stations. He even sent a priority report to the Galactic Military Council. The meeting room was full of important people. There were admirals with decorated uniforms, scientists with glowing instruments, professors from every field of study. They had all come to hear about the humans. Stood at the front of the room. Behind him, a large screen showed images of and from the previous day. There were recordings of shooting the rifle, recordings of spinning her knife, data charts and measurements and analysis. "Thank you all for coming," said. "What I am about to share will change our understanding of the galaxy." He pressed a button. The screen changed to show a diagram of human hands. "Yesterday, I witnessed something that should be impossible. A human held a Type 7 plasma rifle with only 2 arms. He fired 5 shots with perfect accuracy. He had never touched a plasma rifle before that moment." The room murmured with doubt. "I know this sounds unbelievable," continued. "So I had our science department run analysis overnight. What we found is extraordinary." He pressed another button. The screen filled with data. Human hands contain 27 bones each, 54 bones total for both hands. That is more than any other known species. These bones are connected by hundreds of muscles, tendons, and ligaments. They are controlled by a portion of the brain that is unusually large for their body size. A scientist raised her tentacle. "Many species have complex limbs. Why are human hands special?" "Because of how they work together," said. "Look at this." He played a slow-motion video of knife demonstration. The footage showed every tiny movement of her fingers, every micro-adjustment, every shift of grip and pressure. In this 10-second clip, the human female makes over 200 distinct finger movements. Her accuracy is measured in fractions of a millimeter. Her reaction time is measured in milliseconds, and she does this without conscious thought. It is automatic, natural. The room went quiet. Continued. "We tested her grip strength. It is surprisingly strong for such a small creature. She can crush objects that would resist the grip of but more importantly, she can control that strength with perfect precision. She can hold an egg without breaking it. Then, with the same hand, she can crush a metal bar." "How is that possible?" an admiral asked. "Evolution," said. "The humans evolved on a planet called Earth. It is a dangerous world. Their ancestors had no natural weapons, no claws, no armor, no venom. They survived by using tools. For millions of years, the humans who were best at using tools survived. The ones who were not good enough died." He pressed another button. The screen showed images of ancient Earth, forests and mountains and oceans, animals with sharp teeth and heavy claws. On this planet, early humans hunted animals many times their size. They did this not with strength but with tools and intelligence. Spears thrown with incredible accuracy, traps built with complex designs, bows that could send arrows over vast distances. A professor spoke up. "We have species who use projectile weapons, the throw spears as well." "Yes," said, "but watch this comparison." The screen split into 2 videos. On one side, a warrior threw a spear at a target. On the other side, threw a simple ball at a target. Both hit their marks, but the difference was in the details. "The warrior uses her whole body to throw," explained. "She winds up. She takes 3 steps. She releases the spear with all her strength. It is impressive. He pointed at Svidio. The human barely moves. He stands still. He uses only his arm and shoulder, yet his throw is just as powerful and far more accurate. He could throw 10 objects in the time it takes to throw 1. The professor in the audience shifted uncomfortably. This is the human advantage, said. They do not need to move their whole bodies. They do not need 6 arms or 4 legs or special equipment. They have hands that can do everything. He pulled up more data. We also discovered something about human endurance. Their ancestors were persistent predators. Do you know what this means? The room was silent. It means they hunted by chasing. They would find an animal and follow it, not running fast but running long. They would chase their prey for hours, sometimes days, until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. The humans would still be moving. An admiral leaned forward. Days. No species can move for days. Humans can, said. They have efficient cooling systems. They sweat. This allows them to exercise without overheating. They have joints designed for long-distance movement. They have minds that can ignore pain and fatigue. He showed a video from Earth. It was a human running event. Thousands of humans running together through city streets. This is called a marathon. It is a human tradition. They run 42 kilometers without stopping, for fun. Some humans do this for even longer distances. There are races of 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers. Some humans run across entire continents. The room was stunned. Felt tired. He had spent all night learning about humans. Every new fact was more surprising than the last. He had thought humans were weak. He had been wrong, so very wrong. There is more, he said. Human eyes are advanced. They can track fast-moving objects. They can judge distance with high precision. This is why the human male could aim so quickly. His eyes and hands work together in ways we cannot match. A scientist asked, what about their brains? Are they unusually intelligent? Their intelligence is within normal ranges, said, but the part of their brain that controls motor function is highly developed. They can learn physical skills very quickly. What takes other species decades to master, humans can learn in weeks. Weeks, someone whispered. The human male had never held a plasma rifle before yesterday. He achieved perfect accuracy in his first attempt. He told me this is normal for humans. He said he is average among his species. The room erupted into conversations. Everyone was talking at once. Scientists argued with admirals. Professors debated with researchers. The implications were enormous. If humans could learn weapons skills so quickly, what did that mean for military training? If their hands were so precise, what could they do in surgery or engineering? If they could run for days without stopping, what did that mean for ground combat? Raised his voice above the noise. There is one more thing. The room quieted. I spoke with the human female. I asked her how humans developed these abilities. She told me about their history. He showed a timeline on the screen. It stretched back millions of years. Humans have been using tools for 3 million years. Stone tools, wooden tools, metal tools. Each generation passed knowledge to the next. Skills accumulated over time. Techniques were perfected. He pointed at a marker on the timeline. Here, about 12,000 years ago, humans invented agriculture. They stopped hunting and started farming, but they did not lose their physical skills. They used those skills for other things: building, crafting, art, music, war. Another marker appeared. Here, about 500 years ago, humans invented guns. They have been shooting for 500 years, every war, every conflict, every competition. They have been perfecting the art of aiming and firing. He turned to face the room. We have 3,000 cycles of weapons doctrine. They have 500 years. But in that 500 years, they have become better than us. because their hands and eyes and bodies were designed for exactly this purpose. An admiral stood up. His face was pale. What do we do with this information? Sighed, we learn from them. We invite them to teach us. We rewrite our manuals. We accept that we were wrong. That is a lot to ask. It is the only option. The humans are part of the galactic community now. They are our allies. We can either learn from their strengths or be embarrassed by them. The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking. Everyone was processing. Somewhere in the academy and were attending their regular classes. They did not know about this meeting. They did not know that the entire galactic military was discussing them. They were just two students from Earth trying to learn about the wider universe. But the universe was about to learn much more from them. Looked at the screen one more time. He looked at the images of human hands, such simple things, yet so powerful. 3 million years, he said quietly. They have been preparing for this for 3 million years, and we never noticed. We never thought to look at a species with only 2 arms and ask what they could do with them. He pressed a button and the screen went dark. Meeting adjourned. We have a lot of work ahead of us. The admirals and scientists and professors filed out slowly. Their minds were full of new thoughts, new fears, new possibilities. The galaxy was changing, and 2 humans with 10 fingers each were leading the way. 6 months passed. The gray skis of the Academy moon remained unchanged. The cold wind still blew through the metal corridors, but inside the Interstellar Combat Institute, everything was different. Professor stood in his classroom, the same classroom where had asked his famous question, the same room where everything had changed. But now, instead of standing at the front alone, he shared the space with 2 humans. Sat on the edge of the professor's desk, a plasma rifle resting across his knees. Stood by the window, a collection of training knives laid out on the table beside her. They both wore instructor badges now, guest instructors, the first humans to teach at the academy. Today's lesson is about unlearning, said to the class. Before we can teach you new techniques, you must forget some of what you thought you knew. The students listened carefully. There were new faces this semester. Word had spread about the human instructors. Students came from across the galaxy to learn from them. The class had doubled in size. Was still there. He sat in the front row now. His attitude had changed completely after watching the humans train for 6 months. He had seen hit targets at distances of 300 meters. He had seen disarm opponents twice her size. He no longer laughed at humans. He took notes. For 3,000 cycles, continued, we believed that more limbs meant better weapon control. We designed our training around this belief. We built our entire military doctrine around it. He gestured too. Then this young human walked into my classroom and asked a simple question. Why are you holding it like that? That question forced me to examine everything I thought I knew, and I discovered that I was wrong. Smiled slightly. I didn't mean to cause so much trouble. Trouble? Mandibles clicked with amusement. You caused a revolution. The Galactic Military Council has spent 6 months rewriting manuals. Training programs have been restructured across 100 worlds, all because of one question. Stepped forward. The real lesson isn't about weapons, it's about assumptions. Every species has blind spots, ways of thinking that seem natural but might not be the best approach. She picked up one of the training knives. On Earth, we had the same problem. For centuries, soldiers were trained to fight in certain ways, stand in lines, march in formation. Then someone asked why. They experimented. They found better methods. Our military evolved. Evolution is the key, said. Not just biological evolution, evolution of ideas, evolution of techniques. We must always be willing to question what we know. He walked to the wall and pressed a button. A large screen lit up, showing the cover of a thick document. Galactic Combat Manual. Revised Edition. Contributors: Professor, Instructor Park. This is the new manual, said. It has taken 6 months to write. It contains everything we have learned from studying human techniques. Every species can use at least some of these methods. The students leaned forward with interest. The core principles are simple, said, standing up from the desk. First, work with your body, not against it. Every species has natural strengths. Find them and use them. He held up the plasma rifle. For humans, that means using our grip strength and our eye coordination. For it might mean using your shell as a natural brace. For it might mean using your tail as a third stabilizing point. Second, added, practice efficiency. The goal is not to use more force. The goal is to use the right force in the right way. A small movement can be more effective than a large one if it is precise. She demonstrated with the knife. A tiny flick of her wrist sent the blade spinning into a target across the room. The movement had looked effortless, almost casual, but the knife had hit the exact center. Third, said, learn from everyone. Every species has developed techniques over millions of years. No single approach is complete. The best warriors are the ones who combine methods from many sources. He looked around the room. His 4 eyes moved from student to student. He saw and many others, and he saw potential in all of them. This is not about humans being better, said. This is about all of us becoming better by learning from each other. The humans have taught us about hand control and precision. Perhaps we can teach them about other things. Endurance, environmental adaptation, team coordination. Nodded, we've already learned a lot from you. The meditation techniques have helped me focus. The strength training has made me tougher, even taught me something. Looked up with surprise, I taught you. Yes, you taught me that size doesn't determine ability. You can move faster than anyone I've ever seen, despite being one of the largest students here. That's something I could never do. Shell shifted color slightly. It was the equivalent of blushing. Smiled. The galaxy is full of amazing abilities. We just have to find them. That's what this new curriculum is about. Not replacing old knowledge, but adding to it, growing, evolving. The lesson continued. Demonstrated shooting techniques adapted for different species. Showed knife grips that could work with claws, tentacles, or other appendages. Explained the theory behind each method. By the end of the class, every student had tried something new. They had learned to use their shells as weapon braces. They had discovered that their tails could provide incredible stability. They had found that their floating bodies allowed them to absorb recoil in ways no one had imagined. After the students left, sat in his chair. He looked tired but happy. It had been the best class he had taught in 47 cycles. Thank you, he said to the humans, both of you. Shook his head. We should thank you. You could have ignored us. You could have dismissed our questions. Instead, you listened. It was not easy, admitted. When you first asked that question, I was angry. I thought you were disrespecting me, disrespecting tradition. It took time for me to understand that you were trying to help. Questions are never disrespectful, said. They're how we learn. On Earth, we have a saying. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. His mandibles clicked thoughtfully. I like that saying. I will remember it. He stood up and walked to the window. The gray sky stretched out endlessly. Ships came and went from the academy landing pads. Students from 100 worlds walked the metal paths below. You know, he said, when I started teaching, I thought my job was to give answers. I had the knowledge. The students needed to receive it. Simple. He turned back to face them. Now I understand that my real job is to ask questions, to make students think, to challenge what they believe. You showed me that. Walked to the window and stood beside the professor. That's the thing about knowledge, it's never finished. There's always more to learn, more to question, more to discover. On Earth, added, we've been exploring for thousands of years. We've crossed oceans. We've climbed mountains. We've reached our moon and beyond. But we still don't have all the answers, and that's the exciting part. Nodded slowly. They are not naturally curious. We prefer stability, tradition, order. Perhaps that is why we never thought to question the weapons manual. It worked well enough. Why change it? But it could work better, said. Everything can always be better. That's what drives us. That's why humans are always asking questions, always pushing limits, always trying new things. It is exhausting just to think about, said with a hint of humor. It can be, laughed. But it's also wonderful. Every day is a chance to learn something new, to become something more than you were yesterday. Was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached out with one of his 6 arms. He placed it on his shoulder. It was a gesture of respect among the. I am glad you came to our academy, he said. I am glad you asked your question, and I am glad to call you colleagues. Smiled. The feeling is mutual, Professor. Outside the window, a new class of students was arriving. Their ships landed on the distant pads. They would come to this academy to learn. They would sit in this classroom. They would hold weapons and ask questions. And somewhere among them, there might be another student with a new question. A question that no one had thought to ask before. A question that could change everything again. That was the beauty of knowledge. It never stopped growing. It never stopped changing. And as long as there were curious minds willing to ask, there was no limit to what the galaxy could learn. Professor picked up his data pad. The new curriculum was loaded and ready. 100 worlds were waiting for it. A new era of training was about to begin. Shall we get to work? He asked. And nodded. Together, the 3 of them walked out of the classroom. With 6 arms, 2 humans with 4. But in this moment they were equals, teachers, learners, partners in the endless quest for knowledge. The door closed behind them. And somewhere in the distance, a young student was preparing to ask a question. The universe would never be the same.